Good morning. I'm Marilee Rosine Beasley. I live in Jersey Village. I've lived here for 40 years. I want to tell you that today I wrote another email to the president. This is my 14th email. I take that email, I send it to Houston Chronicle reporters, all levels of leadership in the state of Texas, including Senator Cruz and Senator Cornyn and Lena Hidalgo. Just to let you know, I'm going to summarize that email because I am a public health nurse. I'm a certified school teacher, and I like to inform the president of things that he needs to know because he's surrounded by, quote, the experts like Dr. Fauci. All right, so to tell you basically what I wrote him, I explained to him once again that the coronavirus dies in the sunlight, will drift away on air currents. In my opinion, the coronavirus is not as big a risk as the annual flu. Children are not usually impacted by the coronavirus. They are impacted by the annual flu. And 2 years ago, when it was the annual flu season, we didn't see anybody insisting that we wear masks. I don't even believe in this idea of wearing masks. If someone is sick, they should not go to school or work. If their systems are compromised, if they have problems, their doctor will tell them, don't go and be in crowds. So if they listen to their doctor, who's telling them information that makes sense to me, they won't be around crowds. So why are we having to wear a mask? Well, this is what I believe. I believe that it's not about our health. I believe it's about control. I believe it's about trying to make President Trump look bad. I don't know if that's true. That's what I suspect. And I suspect that Bill Gates and George Soros are behind this. I found a YouTube video that someone sent me, and it had Bill Gates talking about, in a TED Talk in 2015, he was talking about the next threat probably wouldn't be nuclear, it'd be a virus. Now, how did Bill Gates know that the virus would be a problem 5 years ago? I want you to think about that, and maybe you can Google this information for yourself. It's always important to do your own research. So when I talk to you with the things I talk about, I do my best to do my research, and I do encourage you to also do your own research. Okay, so to continue on with some information about the coronavirus, I believe that those flimsy masks that you see so many leaders wear make people sick and should be thrown away in about 20 minutes. So when I see a leader wearing a flimsy mask, I know they haven't done their own research. And I believe I may have seen Dr. Fauci wearing one of those. Now, when I am forced to wear a mask, I like wearing the one that's the plastic face shield, like you see in surgery. I also have an N95, because remember, I'm a public health nurse, and I have known about these things for a long time. I used to work for the Harris County Health Department. All right, so to continue on with what I wrote to the president, I know that there are effective medications that can treat the coronavirus. And I also believe that the annual flu vaccine has to be reformulated every season. And because I eat healthy, exercise, I have a purpose in life, I don't believe that I'm at risk for much. So I don't plan to take the coronavirus vaccine, which I believe has been rushed to market. Now, these are things that you need to research for yourself and decide on your own. All right, so anyway, to continue on, I want to talk a little bit about local politics. Joe Dana ran for Harris County Sheriff. Joe Dana was fired for lying when he was a constable with the Harris County Constable's Department. I don't understand at all why Joe Dana thought it was okay to run for Harris County Sheriff. I guess he thought that nobody would ever discover that he was fired for lying. Now, Joe seems like a nice person. He lives in Jersey Village. Another thing that's very strange about Joe Dana running for Harris County Sheriff is he's on the Brady list. That means he cannot testify in court. Now, also, another thing that happened during the primary, he got 8,000 mail-in ballots. During the runoff, he got 16,000. What a jump in the number. I am suspicious that there is mail-in ballot fraud with his race. And I know that I would like to see those mail-in ballots. I've had that problem in Jersey Village. In May of 2018, there was James Singleton won by 3 votes. And Simon Hughes is an attorney with business experience. And somebody said to me they thought it was very strange. They said everybody they knew was voting for Simon. And I thought about that, and I thought, that's true. So I started thinking about it, and I discovered that we have a lot of mail-in ballots in Jersey Village now. Now, we used to have almost none. And when we have a municipal election, it only takes like 1 minute to vote. So why would you bother with a mail-in ballot? Why would you apply? It's faster to just go in, get your ballot, mark it, and put it into that old-fashioned ballot box with a slit in the side. Now, why do we have an old-fashioned ballot box? The slit is so large in the side that somebody could put their hand in it. And so I created a survey because I thought something was very suspicious about all of this. I created a survey. I spent over $2,000 of my own money asking for documents, buying stamps, and I spent a lot of my time, and so did Bill Beasley and my daughter and somebody else. And there were a lot of people that were recipients of mail-in ballots. And on that survey that I created, I asked several questions. One was, have you ever applied for a mail-in ballot? And so many people wrote back to me. They filled out their survey because I included an envelope with a stamp on it. And it only took them about 1 minute to put their form in the mail and send it back to me. So several people wrote back. 3 people wrote back and indicated they'd never applied for mail-in ballots. And one of them is my neighbor. And he told me later that when he went up there to vote, somebody had already voted in his name. Now, if that had happened to me, I would have called the Department of Justice, and I would have gotten that whole election shut down, because something is not right with that. Something was not right with that election. Now, I found out later that somebody that I know was in the count room the day of the election, and she was documenting everything. Paula Dillon, who was a strong supporter of James Singleton, shouted out, "The count is close." Now, that's a class, I believe that's a class, that is a misdemeanor. And also Barbie Freeman, who was the precinct chair at that time, was looking at the numbers all day long, which is really not what you're supposed to do. And then James Singleton came into the polling place, and that's also a misdemeanor. Now, why was James Singleton in there? He knew if he had something that he needed to share with Barbie, he should have sent somebody else in there. Okay, so all of this is going on, and Cheryl documented everything. I didn't even know Cheryl was in that count room that day. So I sent everything that I found into the State of Texas Election Division. And Cheryl sent everything in also. And so what I think happened is that there was a lot going on in Dallas, and little old Jersey Village was just too small for somebody to come in and investigate. And also started not being very happy with Barbie Freeman, because she had been the precinct chair for decades. And so I discussed this with the chair of the Harris County Republican Party, because I just thought things were not right. I don't know if that ballot box was stuffed all of those years. Now I'm wondering. And the other thing that was suspicious is that the ballot box was stored at the Jersey Village Police Department at night. By then, I didn't trust Eric Forster. I no longer trusted him. So is it possible that he allowed people to go in and maybe stuff a few ballots in? Maybe, I don't know. And I don't think we'll ever know unless we get people under oath. All right, so since that time, I have found out many other things. I found out that Barbie Freeman was a very strong supporter of James Singleton. She was on the Planning Zoning Committee. So I guess we have the little government group, who I call the good old boys. Now, sadly, we have a situation where when there are vacancies, the good old boys appoint their friends. We don't elect them. Now, I don't think that's right. The good old boys on the Jersey Village City Council are on a big spending spree, and it's our hard-earned tax dollars that pay for all of this. Now, I know that Dan Crenshaw, who I consider kind of silly in some ways because he never wore that patch before he started campaigning, talked about Justin Ray being the youngest mayor in JV in Jersey Village. Well, what Dan Crenshaw doesn't know is that Rod Erskine, a mayor, stepped down at the very last minute. Justin Ray put his name in and nobody else knew there was going to be a chance for something like that. No one knew. So it seems to me that it didn't have anything to do with his being the youngest mayor. He was the only one that knew that this was going to happen. Now, it's not illegal. I think it's a little tricky. Oh, well, what does it matter? Because there's a lot of tricks that have been going on. Curtis Haverty sent an email out, and he talked about, he wrote an email, Simon Hughes was a DWI, like when he was in his early 20s. Oh, good grief. And I got so furious about that I went up to City Hall and I gave every single person, I told Lori Cootie or whoever, I said, please put a letter in every single person's box, all the city council and the mayor. I was so put out about it. And then guess what? I found out later that James Singleton, who was endorsed by everybody, guess what? He used to work for the Jersey Village Police Department. And now Eric Forrester, who was fired in October, has filed a lawsuit, and now everybody knows what James Singleton used to do when he was on duty, and it's not nice. And then what's even stranger is that James Singleton's Internal Affairs Investigation Report was taken out of the file. I consider it stolen. Now, who stole it? I don't think James Singleton did. I don't know. Could it have been Eric Forrester? I don't know. I'll never know. And James Singleton is trying to tell me that report, that it's a lie, that's in there, that it's a lie. Oh, really, James? I know who wrote it. Detective Sean Horton wrote the Internal Affairs Investigation Report. And Eric Forrester asked Mark Zatkin to recreate it. So why is James Singleton lying to me? I don't know. Now I'm going to tell you something else that I think is really strange. I looked at Justin Ray's website yesterday, and Joyce Berube was a Jersey Village council person. Joyce Berube has been deceased for a while, and she has endorsed Justin Ray. She's dead. She's dead. Oh well. I mean, is she gonna vote for him from heaven or wherever? Good grief. Justin needs to go in and delete her name because she can't endorse. Well, I guess she endorsed him previously. Anyway, who knows? All right, so I want to tell you a little bit more about some things. All right, so this card came in the mail yesterday. Justin Ray put special interests first and our kids' schools last. Now, I want you to know that I do not agree with this statement. With this. Justin Ray is very much pro-education, which I am because I am a certified school teacher. I worked for Houston ISD for 3 years, and I also worked for a charter school for 3 years. Not all charter schools are created equal, okay? When I worked there, I was there in the beginning, and I was very concerned about all the money that was being spent right and left, and the people that didn't know what they were doing. They were earnest, but they just didn't know what they were doing. Okay, so I think what Justin is interested in is having perhaps the money follow the student. I do not have a problem with that at all, because right now we know that Houston ISD is in a lot of trouble with TEA, Texas Education Association. They're in a lot of trouble. In addition, a few days ago, I found out that one of their high-level executives is in trouble for contracts. So we got a lot of fraud going on in good old HISD. And when I worked at HISD, I was appalled at the number of kids who cannot read, write, and do grade level math. My daughter's been working in Aldine at a middle school, and I'm appalled at how many kids cannot read, write, and do grade level math. So the school systems are raising the future felons of America, all right? Now, I do want you to know that Justin Ray is being backed by a lot of rich developers. Now, when I ran for Texas State Rep, I only had time to get $45 in donations. I was so busy. And then I said, well, I don't know anybody anything. I self-funded my campaign. So I want to encourage everybody to do their own research. I would recommend that everybody Google Justin Ray. There's something on the Southeast Texas Register article written by David Yates. It's called something like Lawsuits, Bankruptcy, and Back Taxes. The way that I look at it is, if Justin Ray can't even manage that situation, why do we think that he should go to Austin? Now, when Justin was the mayor of Jersey Village, we never got any tax relief, and he seemed like he was a tax and spend politician to me. All right, so I just want to let you know some other things. I ran into Ted Cruz the other night at a function. He was leaving early to go to a wedding. So I gave Ted Cruz an earful. Ted Cruz used to live in Jersey Village a long time ago. Raphael had a house down the street from where I now live. And I gave Ted an earful. I talked about the coronavirus, and I said, I don't think it's okay for politicians to endorse candidates before the primary. Greg Abbott endorsed Justin Ray. He also endorsed some other people. Why? Are people giving good old Greg donations? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you what I know about Justin, or what I believe. I never saw Justin in the trenches. I never saw him at a district convention, state convention. I hardly ever saw him at a meeting. And I'm very active in this part of town. I've been the board member of Cherry Tree Republican Club for a long time. I was a board member. I've been a member for a long time. I belong to Cy-Fair Women's Group. I also faithfully attend the Cypress Tea Party group. I haven't seen Justin until he was campaigning. Now, he used to come once in a while, especially at Christmas, to the Cherry Tree Republican group. And I personally talked to him about Dannenbaum Engineering. Dannenbaum repeated the Brooks and Sparks flood study. And I told Justin that night, I said, we need a refund. And I think he thought I was kidding, and I wasn't. Why are we paying for a repeat flood study? Well, guess what I found out recently? Jim Dannenbaum was on Justin Ray's host committee. Isn't that a little ironic? Okay, so I want to tell you some other things. All right. So I just really think that it was pretty crummy when Curtis Haverty wrote that email about Simon Hughes, and then we got James Singleton, oh, he's so great, and blah, blah, blah. All right, it's really important to do your own research. Now, it happens that Eric Forster has filed a lawsuit against the city of Jersey Village. And there's a summary of that lawsuit. It's on Southeast Texas Register. David Yates posted something. And so now we all will know what James Singleton used to do when he used to work for the JV. Now, what I'm concerned about is that Eric Forster will walk away with between $600,000 and $700,000. And also, I'm very concerned that there's other lawsuits out there that are pending. There's a lot of lawsuits, and the city of Jersey Village tends to settle. So Austin Blease, I don't know why he's not asking for more help to make sure that he follows all of the protocol and he doesn't goof anywhere, because when people get fired and they decide to file a lawsuit, then they're going to walk away with a bunch of money. All right, so I also want to say something about Mark Herman. Now, I like Mark Herman. He's at Precinct 4. Well, he talked about, Justin Ray and public safety. Well, what I want to mention is that everybody's in favor of public safety. And Eric Forster, when I got his termination letter, I was appalled. He was our police chief for 9 years, and he appears to have been a tyrant. So if you want to see his termination letter, it's on my website. That website is merrileebeasley.org. Also, Ron Dooley got fired. He's on the Brady list. And so his termination letter is on my website, merrileebeasley.org. And it's merrileebeasley.org. So you can look at those things for yourself. Many months ago, we kept track of how many people came to look at that termination letter. It was over 4,200 people. 4,200 people had looked at Eric Forrester's termination letter. Now, I don't know why Eric Forrester still holds a peace officer's license. From what I can tell, when he was in Vidor, he was fooling around with personnel files. And then, of course, we've got our cover-up here in Jersey Village is what it seems. And then good old James Singleton, I don't know why he has a peace officer's license for what he's done. And Ron Dooley, too. I found out that Ron Dooley was in a hot tub with some women, and he handcuffed one. With two women, and he handcuffed one, and it went to a grand jury. So all you have to do is Google Ron Dooley, police officer, San Angelo, and I believe it will show up. So do your own research. Google Joe Dana, Fox News, Google Ron Dooley, and I really like Ron Dooley, and I don't know what he was thinking. I guess he wasn't. I guess he was, I suspect that they were all very inebriated. Now, I wasn't there, so that's just a hunch. All right, so just want to say that I think it's always important to do your own research. Don't just believe me. Don't rely on slates, because 2 years ago, Erin Swanson ran for judge, and I got her personnel file. And she had only worked for the DA's office right out of law school for 13 months. But oh, she had prosecuted thousands of cases, and she'd done this and that. And it was like, wow, isn't that amazing? So I went to her boss, former boss, Stan Stannard, after Sunday school. I said, Stan, how did Erin prosecute thousands of cases? It turned out they were traffic tickets. And I went, whoa, to myself. And I said, Stan, you're from Broken Arrow, and I'm from Tulsa, which Broken Arrow is a suburb of Tulsa. I said, that wouldn't pass the smell test in Oklahoma. And you know what he said? It's just politics. So that means that Erin, if she had won with only 16 months of practicing as an attorney, would have been in a courtroom with not a clue. She unseated Teresa Chang, a sitting Republican judge. Why? Why did all these groups endorse her? Did somebody give them a bunch of donations? Oh, look at Erin, she's so wonderful. Well, I'm very suspicious now. I'm not sure who I can trust anymore. Can I trust Stan Stannard? Nope. Can I trust Erin Swanson and Valerie Swanson, her mother, and Norma Jeter with her slate, and Pat Hansen? I don't know. And I've had people say, oh, just be quiet, pull the R lever. I wasn't raised that way. I'm the oldest of 6 kids, and boy, my mother would have lit into me if I fibbed when I was a kid. But apparently politicians can fib and lie anytime they want, and it's protected speech unless they're under oath. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about somebody named Chris Daniel. He's running for tax assessor collector. I only found out yesterday that he grew up in Jersey Village. Now, I don't know why, but I've always liked Chris. I didn't even know till yesterday that I didn't know he lived on Jersey Drive, and apparently their house flooded so many times they moved nearby. All right, so I want you to do your own research and check out Chris Daniel. Okay. All right, now, I also want to tell you about some other candidates. And please do your own research. Okay, there's Dan Lemko, okay? And then we also have Alyssa, okay? And then we have the A-Team, all right? And Linda Garcia has run before, Fred's run before, Michael and Aaron. Now, Bruce Bain is a new person to me. I've been in communication quite a bit with Bruce Bain, and I met his wife the other night, okay? So, the way I see it is, I can usually tell when somebody is the real deal. And if they're not, I'm gonna call them out. So, anyway, we've got what's called the A-Team here. Okay, now, Mary Nan Huffman, a fireball if there ever was one. Okay, so let me tell you about Mary Nan. She has 2 kids, and she wants everybody to live in a safe community, just like that she can provide for her children. And she's running for Harris County DA. So please consider researching her and voting for her. She is the real deal, okay? She also has mentioned that we have a very long ballot in Harris County, and we no longer can just pull the R, the lever. So, and actually 2 years ago, what I did is I pulled the R lever, and then I undid people I didn't like I didn't trust Aaron Swanson. How could I? All right, so now what Mary Nan is mentioning is go to the bottom of the ballot and then start choosing. Not the top, but the bottom, and then keep going. Choose people that you trust, okay? Now, I want to share with you a letter that Justin Ray sent out to voters in Jersey Village. And someone wrote some information in rebuttal to this. This was in June. Dear friend, in this past election, we were all shocked and saddened to see our longtime state representative and friend Gary Elkins had been defeated in a very close election by the self-proclaimed progressive liberal John Rosenthal. I am running for state representative to return principled conservative leadership to the Texas House. I have dedicated myself to serving the people of Northwest Harris County. This is the community of my childhood and where I'm raising my family. I deeply understand our area's challenges and opportunities. All right, this is what somebody wrote. And since I have been the watchdog for Jersey Village City Council, I believe that everything in here is true that this other person wrote. For Justin Ray, principal conservative leadership is scheduling meeting of city council when a majority of citizens can't attend. Now, I personally know that there have been meetings, a meeting at 5:30 and 6 p.m., which is very early for people that have to come home from work and feed their children. City council meetings were scheduled for Monday evenings, many as early as 5:30 p.m. The agendas are published late on Friday, thus meeting the legal requirement of 3 days prior to the meeting, but making it difficult for many citizens to review the information over weekend. Now, I want to say this. It's not about 3 days, 72 hours before the meeting. It's about making sure that voters and residents are aware. Now, if nobody knows the meeting is coming, how will they know there's a special meeting? And I didn't even know we had a city bulletin board. I didn't even know that, and I've lived here for 40 years. So I don't appreciate all these little shenanigans that are, city council and Austin Blease and Lori Cootie they're patting themselves on the back. At meetings where large public expenditures were to be voted upon, Justin Ray, as mayor, declared no citizen remarks would be allowed. Thus, when millions of dollars were scheduled to be discussed, citizens had no say. It wasn't until the city attorney intervened that citizen comments were allowed. Now, what I want to tell you is one night Bill Beasley was standing up there. I think he was the only citizen in the room at one of these special meetings. I had written to a lot of people to let them know about the special meeting. Bill went up there and he protested. He said, this is not right. This is not right that I cannot say anything. And the city attorney, Scott Bounds, I think it was Scott Bounds, agreed with Bill. Now, in the meantime, I wasn't going to go because Bill was there. And Bill said, oh, don't come. Then I got in the car and went up there, and I was so angry. My hair was on fire because they were determined to spend money and we weren't allowed to say a word about it, and that is not right. That is not the way a city should be run. So I know personally who it was that spoke up. I was there for part of the meeting, and then I got up. I wasn't planning to say a word, and I told them what I thought. And they voted, as soon as my back was turned, they voted for what they wanted anyway. They were just like little children. Apparently the treasurer of Justin Ray's campaign doesn't quite agree with him. That's Bobby Warren. Bobby Warren, of all people, wrote the following. Over the last 4 years, the average single-family home in Jersey Village has seen their property taxes go up by 23.2% when adjusted for inflation. And there's a link with that. Okay, now back to Justin Ray. In 2015, I was elected as the youngest mayor in Jersey Village city history. Under my leadership, the city embarked on ambitious plans while remaining fiscally responsible and building a surplus of funds at the city level. Okay, so back to the person who's writing the rebuttal. What he doesn't say is Ray and then Mayor Rod Erskine conspired to rig mayoral election when Erskine, without opposition, dropped out of the race at the very last minute and Ray suddenly entered. Thus, he went unopposed. just over a year ago, City Council estimated a cost of $1.2 million to build a new 8,000 square foot golf course clubhouse. In the last year, that has increased to an 11,500 square foot clubhouse convention center with an estimated cost, this is per the consultant, of $3.2 million. Plus, last night, the city disclosed that the 3 construction bids came in between $5.17 million and $7.0 million. Although many residents may generally support improving the Jersey Meadows golf course, would the majority knowingly support a $5.0 million plus expenditure on the clubhouse convention center, particularly when it has not been demonstrated what it will cost to operate the facility and whether it will break even? For Justin Ray being responsible is to spend millions of taxpayer dollars with no business plan, no professional assessment to determine if the facility should be built along Jones Road, thus avoiding traffic, be forced to enter the Core City area for access. In light of the foregoing, there is also good reason to question the accuracy of the city's estimated $8.0 million construction cost for a new city hall. Another slight slip and slide of twisting things is how the mayor addressed the reserve funds. Due to the fact that reserve funds are limited by law as to the amount a city can keep, these surplus of funds were accumulated in a separate fund designated as the unassigned asset replacement fund. A large portion of these funds came from resident homeowners as their JV tax exemptions were reduced to just 8% for homestead rather than the 20% for homestead within Houston and Harris County, and the over 65 JV exemption was reduced to $50,000 rather than the $160,000 exemption offered to homeowners in Houston and Harris County. Now, I want to tell you that Bill Beasley in June 2017 stood up and spoke to City Council. And he talked to them and he told them what he had found with their numbers. As I recall, he had found that the Jersey Meadow Golf Course loses about $600,000 a year. Now, it's a municipal enterprise, and that means it should not be losing money. Maybe it might not make money, but it shouldn't lose money. It should at least break even. Do the citizens realize that all of this is going on? Now, what I personally believe is that a lot of the city council members like to play golf. Now, I used to go up a lot up to the golf course. I'd eat lunch up there or hang out or whatever, because after all, I own it along with the other citizens. And I noticed that it was really, really dirty. So I started cleaning and wiping and washing. Well, apparently Matt Jones found out, and he fired me for my volunteer job. He said, oh, there's going to be liability. Oh, please, I'm not stupid. I think he thought that I was going to hang around and figure out stuff and tell the golfers, yeah, we lost $600,000 last year. Now, frankly, the way I see it is if they want to have the Jersey Village Municipal Golf Course still be there, they should tell everybody, we're losing money. Please come. Please do everything. Get your friends to play. Buy things in the pro shop. I did. What is wrong with telling everybody the truth? Why do we have to hide everything? All right? Now, when Matt Jones talked to me that day, I said, well, so where is the business plan? And Matt said, business plan, like that was a stupid question. Well, I said, is there not a business plan? And so, of course, I wrote to Austin Police. Is there a business plan? Well, of course there's not a business plan. They don't want a business plan because then they'd have to admit to themselves, hey, we're losing $600,000 a year, whatever it is. They don't want a business plan. They don't want to be fiscally responsible. They don't have to be because nobody's paying attention. And the few people that go and talk to the Jersey Village City Council, the City Council rolls their eyes. They don't care. All right, so I'm going to just read one more thing and then I'll be done for today because this is a lot. As mayor, I guided the community through major rain events, including disastrous home flooding during the 2016 tax day flood. To protect people and their property, we went to work to develop a long-term flood mitigation strategy, which included engineered public works projects and street drainage improvements. Okay, so this is what this person has written. 1 year after his election to mayor, Jersey Village experienced a severe flood when over 200 homes were severely damaged. Citizens immediately came together to review a 1999 flood study and launched their own study at their own cost, including a very accurate drone elevation study. Their efforts were shunned by Mayor Ray as being without merit, even though the participants were engineers, geologists, hydrologists, lawyers, and flood victims. Of these, Mayor Ray refused to allow a gratis presentation by Dr. Sam Brody, flooding expert professor, Texas A&M University, famous, appointed to President's Council on Flooding, not good enough for Jersey Village. Okay, so just want to let you know, my daughter's house flooded in the tax day flood, and Bill Beasley, an engineer with a PhD in mechanical engineering, was on this with this group. And he went to meetings, I went to some meetings. Now, after a while, he got way too busy with some other things. He dropped out of the group. I started getting active in the group. At this point, I think I know more about flooding than good old boy Justin Ray. That's just my opinion. Okay, although the city had a comprehensive flood study on Jersey Village previously completed, the city decided to fund yet another study, this time with Dannenbaum Engineering having a fee close to $750,000. At that time, Mayor Ray promised swift action, including shovels in the ground within 120 days. What he delivered a year later was an overly expensive, poorly executed flood study from an engineering firm that is currently under investigation by the FBI. To this date, not one shovel of dirt has been moved. Jim Dannenbaum, who was on the host committee for Justin's fundraiser in September, has stepped down from his engineering firm as part of an apparent plea deal with the feds involving campaign finance violations. All right, so I just want you to know that, as far as I can tell, in over 4 years, not one thing has the city done that's been recommended by 2 flood studies. And also, the Dannenbaum study, from what I can tell, the engineers did not walk the bayou and take any kind of measurements. Maybe they looked, walked around a little, and they sat in their offices doing computer modeling and did a cut and paste from the Brooks and Sparks study. Now, I want to tell you a little more about Jim Dannenbaum and Dannenbaum Engineering. There was a high-level executive who committed suicide. Now, did he commit suicide or was he murdered? I don't know. Will we ever know? After all, Supreme Court Justice Antoine Scalia died on a hunting trip. And I think that's very suspicious, because why did they whisk his body away and there was no autopsy? You think it's possible that he was murdered? Why would he have been murdered? I think anything is possible in Texas, in other places, when you've got good old boys that don't want to be exposed. Now, I just want to finish with a few final things. Right now, we've got a lot of lawsuits in Jersey Village, and I'm concerned that Austin Blease is not making sure that he's doing what he needs to do. So anyway, I do think there's mail-in ballot fraud with Joe Dana's. I'm suspicious about that with Joe Dana's campaign. I'm suspicious that there was mail-in ballot fraud when James Singleton won by 3 votes. So I would just recommend that all of us be vigilant. I think we should do a petition of things. I think we should insist that we vote on whether we can have electronic voting. I think we should vote on our being able to vote on flooding, getting flooding done, something about actually flooding done. I don't think it's enough to take a FEMA grant and elevate 18 houses. I think it looks horrible, because it's telling people that we flood and there's nothing that has mitigated the root cause. I think that's a problem. I think it's a problem that we don't elect the city council members when there's vacancies, and I think we should be able to do that. I think we should be able, the citizens should be able to vote on moving the city hall to the other side of Highway 290. I also think that the citizens should vote on anything that's over an expenditure that's over about $590,000. And so I just think that there's a lot of things that the citizens should vote on, because it's our hard-earned tax dollars that pay for all of this. And the city council has paid for a dog park we didn't need, because most residents have big backyards, so why would they use a dog park? And so I just think that our city council's been on a spending spree. Also, I got an anonymous email from somebody, and they indicated that the current mayor, Andrew Mincham, went around proper channels to get his brewery pub. So I just think there's a lot of issues we need to pay attention to as citizens. I know that many people have gotten fed up with politics, and it's important. I think it's important to consider that whether you like Trump or not, the thing is, you're not just voting for Trump. What you're voting for the way of life that we used to have and is in jeopardy of being gone. We are now in a civil war. We're in a civil war. There are many big cities that have defunded their police, including, I understand, Austin defunded their police department. I don't believe that Houston has, and I certainly do not believe that Jersey Village will. We need to make sure that we are all actively involved with what our leadership. We need to have scrutiny, we need to have transparency, we need to make sure that we back the blue. Now we know that there's always some bad apples, so we do need to make sure that they're gone. I don't think the answer is defunding the police. In fact, I think we need more police. They may need better training. I'd like to see all police officers in Jersey Village work toward a bachelor's degree, if possible, in criminology or something related, maybe some psychology, a lot more psychology classes. A lot of people that get in trouble with the police are those that have no hope. They don't know how to read, write, and do grade level math. They also have a lot of mental health issues. So I just don't think the answer is to defund the police for the rest of us. Bill Beasley grew up in a suburb of Chicago, and in Chicago it's illegal for somebody to own a gun. So guess who has the guns? It's the criminals. The criminals have the guns. So anyway, please be respectful of everybody in this country. I think that we should be able to have different opinions and not be mad at each other. As soon as somebody starts to loot and riot, they become criminals. And that's not okay. And I want to tell you also that I think Joe Biden appears to have dementia, and Kamala Harris appears to not know how to read very well, because she seemed to miss the right to bear arms in the Constitution. So please make sure that everybody you know becomes educated about politics, about candidates, do their own research. I have seen Charles Johnson 2 years ago won a primary, and I never saw Charles Johnson. I suspect that he bought a place on a slate with Steve Hotze and Jared Woodfill. And so please don't use slates. Please do your own research. This is very important. We really are under we are seeing civil war start happening. The more that we can realize that we all want to live in a safe neighborhood, the better it will be. Now, I have another website. I went to Nathan Hale High School in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And Nathan Hale was a 21-year-old person who was hung as a spy by the British. And he said something like, "I only regret that I have only one life to give to my country." And our school mascot was the Patriot. And that's why I use the word patriot. When I ran for state rep, I said I'm a patriot, not a politician. And the name of my website is patriotspoliticalgroup.org for a reason. So Google patriotspoliticalgroup.org and you will see some things. All right, anyway, please, I beg everybody, do your own research. Don't let others think for you. Please have a blessed day. Thank you.